Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Today we're going to talk about demo reels and creature body mechanics, and I guess that's pretty much it. That's like the point of today. So we're going to look at 3 demo reels, and I'll talk about demo reels in general. I've reviewed a lot of demo reels at work, so I have some thoughts on that. And then also we'll talk about some shot-specific notes that I have for the people who bravely submitted their demo reels. You guys are awesome. Thanks for turning those in. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Shawn Kelly. I am a lead animator and sometime animation supervisor at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM. I've been there for 20 years now, which is crazy. I'm officially an old man of animation. I started there as an intern back in the 90s and tricked everybody into letting me try to be an animator and tricked everybody into letting me stay for another 20 years. So I've been there a while now. I've worked on, I think, 30, I forget how many movies. I've worked on a bunch of movies. I counted them recently to tell somebody, and now I don't remember the number. But I've worked on a bunch of movies. I was the lead animator on all the Transformers movies, which, you know, aren't necessarily Citizen Kane, but they are super hard and challenging and fun to work on. So that's been a lot of fun for me. And other movies that I was in a leadership role would be, I was a lead on Rango, which is the only fully animated feature that I've got to work on. I had a blast. It was super fun. I was the lead on a movie called Noah that none of you saw, but that I'm very proud of. And I was the associate animation supervisor for the first time recently on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. And I'm currently doing that for Avengers 3, which looks super fun. Lots of really, again, challenging but fun, exciting animation to do. I haven't got to do a lot of Marvel work yet, so I'm pretty excited to dive into to some Marvel stuff because I'm a big comic book nerd, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I also am the co-founder of Animation Mentor. I probably know what that is since you're here, but if you don't, it's an online animation school where we try to recreate, basically it's like trying to recreate the experience that I had back when I was learning animation, and I was going to a big school and I got an internship at ILM, and I found out that I wasn't being taught at all what I should be learning if I want to be an animator. I was learning all about software and technology instead of the art of animation. And I made the biggest gamble of my life, and I dropped out of school, and I found a mentor, and the order of those switched. I found a mentor first, and then I dropped out. I'm not insane. So I found a mentor, dropped out of school. I made him, Wayne Gilbert is his name. He was an amazing, generous person who taught me so much. And I made Wayne my school. I started going to his house twice a week, learning animation. I did that for a couple years until he felt like I was ready to turn in a reel at ILM to switch to be a full animator there. And the rest is history. Oh, cool. That's awesome, Stephanie. Sorry, I glanced at the chat. And Stephanie knows Wayne, and he totally changed my life. You can tell him that I said he changed my life more than anyone other than like my parents. Amazing guy, super generous, and I learned a ton from him. So anyway, I had this totally amazing experience where I found a mentor, which is such a fluke. Like, what are the odds that somebody can, just happen to be interning somewhere that hires this guy who, had designed the animation curriculum at Sheridan, which is a big animation college in Canada, and he taught at Disney, and he'd done all these things. Like, you happen to be near that person, and they agreed to teach you how to animate, which is also crazy. Like, the odds of that are really slim. So the whole point of the school is to try to provide that experience to our students. And in recent years, we've started offering animals and creatures workshops, which I love that. It's more the type of work that I do at ILM. We do a lot of robots and creatures and aliens, and it tends to be some violent. It's lots of fighting and shooting and killing and dying and fleeing and punching. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think it's super fun. It's also a lot of acting, of course. But so we're offering those classes right now. And today we're going to look at some reels that have some work from the Animals and Creatures course on them. And I don't want this to be like a, hey, I'm trying to sell you guys the Animals and Creatures class. But I do want to say from a place of complete honesty that has become a huge thing at work. We definitely look for that type of work on demo reels now. And I know for a fact that like a lot of people kind of get stuck in, you know, they get this tunnel vision of, I only want to work at Blue Sky, or I only want to work at Pixar, or whatever it is. A lot of people only want to do one thing, kind of like, no matter what, I just want to work at Naughty Dog and work on Uncharted 5, and that's the only thing I want to do in my life. And that's awesome. Like, that's fine. It's great to have that goal. But the odds of like graduating school and going straight to Naughty Dog or straight to Pixar or whatever, it's a little slim, you know. Usually you start somewhere smaller, you build your reel, you work your way up, you're climbing that ladder. You go from one studio to like a bigger studio, you learn a little bit more, your reel gets a little better, you go to the next studio, you learn more, your reel gets better, and eventually, hopefully, you know, you achieve that dream, which is awesome. But in order to do that, you have to be open and hopefully excited to climb that ladder and work at some studios. And the reality is that the vast majority of animation studios out there want to see some creature work, or at least some animal work. Almost every video game place would love to see some animal and creature work. Every visual effects studio like Weta, ILM, you know, MPC, Framestar, Digital Domain, all those places. Every TV commercial studio would love to see some animal and creature work. It's like a huge number of jobs. The number of places that are totally not interested in seeing creature work, it's really small. Okay, so, you know, again, I don't want this to be like, hey, I'm trying to sell you something, but I do want to try to get the word out there that I think it opens a lot of doors and a lot more opportunities for animators. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive into one of these demo reels. We're looking at 3. I'm not sure if you guys are here or not. I hope so. The 3 we're going to look at are, and I'm apologizing in advance if I mess up your names, but we've got Alex Yarmachik, Chad Yapyapan, you gotta tell me how to say that, Yapyapan, I bet, and Sealard Hadabas, one of those, not sure. Awesome names, awesome demo reels. All right, here we go. Whoops. And of course, the first thing I did was close one of them, like a dum-dum. Just a second. Okay. And let me share one of these. Oh, we've got a Q&A question. Oh, right. If you have questions, you can submit them to the Q&A. Jesse's here to also help if you have questions about the school in general. She might answer some of these, but I'll try to hit some questions along the way. So if you have a question, feel free to toss it into the Q&A. Raji asks, when is a good time to do creature animation when you're doing the character animation course? Honestly, I feel like you should do it after. And the reason is that the creature work tends to be more complex work. It's more complicated. You're learning things about like how to deal with live action background plates, how to integrate your character into the cameraman's footage in a way that feels like the cameraman also saw your character. Creatures in general tend to have a lot more controls. It's harder to just film yourself and then put it onto the character, you know? Like, you can film yourself for reference for a dragon, and I don't think that that's a bad idea. I think it's good, and there's times where you definitely would want to do that to study some timing and stuff, but it's not going to be the one-to-one relationship that you're used to for most of the work that you would be doing in your typical character animation course. So because it's harder and the body mechanics are more complicated and less easy to get reference for, I recommend doing it after. And James is asking about the best place to host and distribute a demo reel, as far as like YouTube, Vimeo, a personal website. I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer as long as it plays back reliably and is synced up to the sound. Typically, I've found Vimeo to have the best results for that. So I usually recommend Vimeo, but you know, we'll look at a demo reel wherever. But you know, be warned, if the sound is out of sync, I'm not necessarily going to know that. I might just think that your lip sync is not great. So it's, you know, it's a little sketchy. Be careful with that. Okay, we are going to dive into this first one. I'll just randomly pick one. It's going to be Alex. Okay. All right, so let me just play it once. I'm not sure how smoothly it'll play back, but let's just play it once and thank you, Alex, for submitting this. I'll play the whole thing. Those guys are rad. All right. Awesome job, Alex. We'll give you like a digital round of applause. And again, thank you for your bravery at submitting that. So there's a couple things that I want to talk about here. Mostly I've got a few notes for you. First is the length of the reel. Right now it's 1:18, and that's including like 15-ish seconds of your name. I think that's great. That's a great length. That's ideal. I tend to say that 1 to 2 minutes is the ideal range. Once you hit 2 minutes, you're kind of starting to max out on people's patience. If you've got like, I don't know, people disagree with me on this, but I feel like if you've got tons of work and it's all super high quality, maybe you could push that to like 3 minutes. But Carlos thinks that I'm crazy to say that. He says like 1 minute, and 2 is getting like too long. So everybody has their own feelings on the matter, of course. But yeah, all right. So overall, here's something that I really like about this reel. You've got some excellent body mechanics on the creatures, and a couple different styles. So this reel is doing a good job at getting some variety of style, which is something else that a creature class will offer you. If you haven't taken a creature class and all you've done is like a character course, or you're just animating at home on your own, you're probably doing most of your work in a similar style. And again, that's kind of narrowing your future job opportunities. So it's a good idea to, you know, if you've mostly been working in a slightly more stylized feature animation look, it's a good idea to get a few things on your demo reel that feel more realistic, because that's going to open, again, more doors. It removes the gamble that you know, when we're at work and we're looking at demo reels, we get in a room, there's a few of us, and we're watching your demo reel up on a bigger screen. And sometimes there will be like a really great demo reel. The animation's great, but everything is pretty stylized. And there are some supervisors at work that feel comfortable saying, you know what, it's not our style, but the work is so great and the principles are the same. I think she could do it. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the dice and hire her. Some of the supervisors, though, have been burned by that in the past, because sometimes that doesn't always work out, and they don't want to take that risk. So I've seen like some good demo reels not make the cut due to that. And the same thing could happen at, you know, if I send a demo reel to Pixar, I don't know for sure that they would be like super in love with it, because it's very not their style. You know, everything would be probably feel kind of if you took Buzz Lightyear and you put him in a Transformers movie, he's gonna feel super fake and cartoony. And if you put Optimus Prime into Toy Story, he's gonna look stiff and boring. And it's just two different styles, you know? So it's a good idea to get some variety. And I feel like Alex has some good variety on here, where he's got some really great body mechanics. Like through here, some really nice stuff where he feels big and heavy. The timing is awesome. I really love that shot. And so here's something else that is a good tip to remember, is he put arguably certainly one of, if not the best shot at the beginning. And it's definitely one of his best shots, is right at the beginning. And I think that that's a really important thing. You want to hook the reviewers right off the bat. Ideally, it's your second best shot. And that's imagining that you have two that are like almost just as good as each other. If you've got that, then I would put the second best one first and the best one last. And that way you hook them at the beginning and they watch a bunch of stuff. And then when the demo reel ends, you wow them with your best work and they stop your reel thinking, wow, Alex was awesome. If you just put your best stuff right at the beginning and then it kind of progressively gets less and less impressive and then the reel ends, then they're left with the feeling of like, oh, it was okay. I don't know. Yeah, there was the shots at the beginning that were good, but you know, that's how the conversation kind of takes a turn. Okay. I see that there's questions in the Q&A, which I will get to. Let me finish talking about Alex's reel, and then we'll do some questions. I'll do another reel, we'll do questions. Let's do it like that. So he's got some good variety here, and something else that I like is down in the corner with some of these shots, he's saying that he also did the rigging. That's a great way to communicate that. It's out of the way, it's off in the corner. I really like how he's done this. Sometimes it's a big, long explanation down here that you would have to like pause to sit and read, which if a recruiter's got like 100 demo reels to look at, she's not gonna pause to read that stuff. So you wanna make it like really easy to see anything like this. And you always wanna be careful not to take credit for something that you didn't do. But in this case, it's taking credit for something that they wouldn't assume that Alex did, which is that he could also rig, that's a good plus. Most studios would think that's great. Alex, I think this is great. I really like this shot, nice and heavy. This guy's really fun. He's more stylized, but I think he's fun. I like the shot where this one where he pulls the sword back. That stuff is really cool. I'm gonna give you like a very small note on this, and this type of stuff becomes a discussion in the room when there's multiple demo reels that are almost equally good. Usually what happens is we'll start with 100, it'll get whittled down to like 20, it gets whittled down to like 10, and once you get into like that last 10, they're all pretty darn good. And then you're really like looking for attention to detail and ideas and you know, how emotional is the performance and those kinds of things. So something to watch out for here is his forward progress gets this little like stuttery quality. If you watch his nose, starting, this is about 34 seconds in. So he's going I feel like he's moving forward. Then here he like almost, his head kind of stops a little bit too much here, and then it shoots forward there, and this is the bigger problem. This is the moment here. Shoots forward, and then back on this frame, back on that frame, forward on that frame, back on those frames, and then forward on that frame, and you get like a jigga 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 in his head that takes away from kind of the power of what you're doing there. I think this one's super fun. The style is great. This is when you're getting, you know, this is probably your most stylized thing on here, I think. But it's great for variety, and I really like it. I think it's really well done. I think the dragon flight is really great, but I will be super picky. Okay, hold on. I can draw on this, I think, right? Yeah, cool. All right. Clear my drawing. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't want to take the time to like draw all the arcs and stuff, but if you go to this frame and you just look at, let's see, how do I get a bigger line? Line width, look at that. Just look at, what the heck mode am I in? Am I erasing? Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this. I think I draw anymore. Draw a line. I don't want to draw a line. There we go. Okay. If you look at this wingtip and just kind of track how that comes down and turns around, we're getting into a problem where here it's coming down at this angle, this forward angle, which is great. That's helpful for the lift and giving the animal thrust forward, even though it's like counterintuitive that it's this forward thing. That's giving our lift. So as this wing comes forward, if you watch this point, it's coming forward in a pretty linear line, hits this point, and basically, like it does go back a little bit, but what you're not getting is a little arc at the end of that path, and you really need that to be something. Draw again. Let's see. Right now, you've got something that looks like this, like that, and then from there, kind of goes back up. And this sharp angle is a big problem. Like there are a few times in nature where something organic is going to do like a super sharp turnaround like that. And particularly with like a large heavy thing, you're going to want that to come down and do a little loop and then go back like that. And that little loop at the end is going to be what helps it to feel more organic, bigger, heavier, all that kind of good stuff. All right, okay. That. Got the cool flying. These guys are great. I love these. Again, a little bit more stylized, but they feel a little less stylized than the kind of little goblin guy. And then I wanted to just throw you an idea here. I think that this is great. It's really good. It's definitely one of your best shots. Overall, I think it's really cool. But if we're getting into like, you know, the top 10 demo reels, part of the discussion would be about ideas. And this is, I mean, this is getting so picky, okay? But I'll just throw this out there for you. Is that it's a big thing for us to try not to make either character feel like they're not fully engaged or trying, you know? And what we have here is you've got this super cool idea where this guy gets punched and he falls down. And he reaches out and he grabs this rock. Then he gets yanked and he gets rolled over. And then he kind of waits a really long time to do anything with that rock. And it doesn't quite feel like he's engaged enough. And the idea I wanted to throw at you, it would be changing the animation a little bit, not a lot. I don't think it would take you very long to do. And I can tell you have the skill to incorporate this if you want to. So I'll just throw it out there if you want to. It could be that he tries to get the rock here, but he misses it because this guy grabs him. So if you just have him grab for the rock a few frames later, he could miss the rock. The rock could move a little bit. Maybe it skitters over to the side a little bit. And then once he's here, through this part, you could have his head twisted back, still looking for the rock and still trying to get it. So through this, he's trying to get the rock, trying to get the rock. He's here, he's still looking at the rock, but getting choked. And then he gets the rock and lifts it up to here, and then wham, hits the guy. I feel like that would feel like he's more engaged, more into it. Anyway, take that or leave it if you want. Overall, a very strong demo reel, and I'm super impressed with it. Okay, let me hit some of these questions. All right. Let's see if I can make this question answer area larger. All right, I'm going to zip through these. Starting from the top. What do we got? Are creature walk cycles good to have on your reel? Absolutely, 100% for sure. If so, how would you play blast that? With a moving camera or on the character to see all sides, or multiple from different points of view? Something that you don't want to do on a demo reel is show any shot more than once. And I would include a walk cycle in that. So I don't want to see like a front view and then from the side and then 3/4. The danger, like even though as an animator, I'm actually kind of curious to see that, but the recruiters are going to get impatient with that. They feel like they're seeing the same thing over and over and over. And what they're going to do is they're going to hit the right arrow on your YouTube clip or whatever and bump it forward. And you know what they're not going to do is hit the left arrow to go back. So if they hit the right arrow and they bump it forward, and they skipped a few seconds ahead into the middle of another shot, they're not going to rewind it to see that shot from the beginning. So your goal as a demo reel crafter needs to be to keep the recruiters away from their keyboard, away from the remote control. You don't want them to fast forward anything. You don't want, you want to make sure your sound levels are good so that they don't turn the volume down because maybe the music's too loud or it's too obnoxious and they turn the volume down and then a character starts talking. They might turn it back up to hear the talking, but they're not going to rewind it to hear the talking from the beginning. So you want to just craft it in a way that they can just sit back and watch it. So in light of that, I would say if you really want to show it from multiple angles, you could do them all at once. You know, you could have like a split screen or something where you're showing a front view and a 3/4 view. That's fine. Or I like your idea of an orbiting camera around the walk. I think that that's fine too. I just wouldn't make it go on for too long, you know, maybe like 3 seconds or something like that. So you're probably not going to be able to do like a full orbit in that amount of, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It might be better just to show it in profile, 3 seconds, move on. All right. How do you render the characters, backgrounds, animals, and objects? For that, I'm not totally sure if you're asking about like ILM or if you're asking about you, but you would be doing it in whatever your animation software of choice is. Some of you are probably using, a lot of you I bet are using Maya. That's kind of the industry standard. If you're a student anywhere, you can get it, I think, basically for free. There's also Blender. Some people use Blender. There's a, 3D Studio. Where people still using Max? I don't know. Softimage. Some people are still using Softimage. A lot of places like that still. The thing about it is that all of those programs basically work the same. Like the concepts are the same. The buttons are in different places and they might be called different things. But if you learn one of them, you could learn another one in a short amount of time. So I recommend Maya just because most places use Maya these days. But, it depends on what's available to you and what you like. Hey, I'm an alum of Animation Mentor. Woo! Really love the program. Awesome. And you're considering taking a creature class. Super awesome. I'm interning at a VFX company in LA. It's a very fast-paced environment, but one of the challenges I've been having is animating quickly, transitioning from school mode to, whoa, it just disappeared. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Oh, here we go. Okay. Transitioning from school mode to fast-paced work mode. What would you recommend to help with that? Another question is, what would you recommend for animating realistically, like adjusting or adding mocap? Not exactly a creature question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot in there. First of all, awesome. I'm glad you dug the program. I think we've met, haven't we? I feel like we've met. I totally think that I know who you are. And congratulations on your internship. So as far as like adjusting to a different pace, it is a different pace, and the concepts are a little bit different too. In school, you get to animate like whatever you want within the confines of that assignment or the parameters of, maybe you have a frame length thing, and the first class you're told like it's a bouncing ball and it's this many frames. But by the class 3 or 4 or whatever, you're just animating like whatever you want within the chosen frame length. Work is not like that. Somebody's telling you what to animate. There's a director or a project lead or whatever. So that's one thing that's different. And then the pace obviously is also different. So I think just being as efficient as you can, making the most of the time that you have. I think the biggest advice I have is to not forget the importance of your planning. It's so tempting to not do your diligent planning and to take the time to find your reference and study it and do your thumbnail drawings and like figure out the timing before you're in the computer. Like if you actually do that, your work will go so much faster. And I know that it can be tempting not to do that. There's definitely been times where early on I was like, oh, I've animated something like that before. I think I basically know how to do that. And you just dive in and start doing it. Those shots eventually were good enough to get into the movie, but they took way too long to get good enough. And good enough should not be our goal, right? We want to try to make something memorable and exciting, larger than life, something that's like entertaining. And good enough, that shouldn't be our goal. And those shots that I got cocky on, those will never be on my demo reel. Those are the ones I'm ashamed of. I will never admit to doing them. I would say planning is a key part of that answer. And then I think that it's just finding an efficient workflow, making the most of the people around you. If there's peers that you can show your work to, so you don't have to wait for feedback from your lead or your supervisor, finding flaws earlier, like that can really help too. Reusing animation from one thing to another where you can. I don't do that a whole lot, but every once in a while it's like, oh, well, I could kind of like, I've already animated this, guy standing there and breathing, and I need to animate some guy in the background of this shot that I don't care about a whole lot. I'll grab that guy and just change it a little bit. That can help. And then as far as your question about animating realistically, again, it's planning and reference. Like it's really taking a careful study of your reference. And being observant as an animator is not a passive thing. It's an active conscious effort to be like maximum curious about how everything is working. You can't just notice in the reference that like the chest moved, you know, counterclockwise when that foot hit the ground. You need to be like a scientist, a reference scientist, and say, okay, well, like, why did that happen? And I'm going to look at this until I figure out how that works. Like, that foot hits the ground, and what did that do? What did the hips do? What did that do to the spine? How did that make the chest rotate over? And then what actions propagated outwards from that down the limbs? How did that affect the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists and the head? And just like making a careful study of that stuff will help you be informed to veer off of the reference and do your own thing, but in a way that feels realistic. And it will help you notice the tiny little subtleties that you can very easily overlook when you're using reference if you're not really making a careful study of it. And as far as incorporating motion capture, I think that's great as long as you're, you know, doing it in a good way. I think if you're capturing like mocap and then putting it directly one-to-one into a movie or a game or something, you're definitely missing out on some opportunities to make it more memorable and make it stronger. Generally, I try to use mocap at almost like 3D reference, and you know, you need to do the same process that you would do with your reference. Like if I'm going to do something, hopefully, you know, trying to make something more realistic, like, I don't know what, Star Wars or Transformers or something, I'll go film myself acting out something. I'll find a reference. We'll kind of merge those together and whatever. And maybe we even get some motion capture, whatever it is. But I can't just take all of that and just put it directly into the movie because it'll feel a little stiff, a little bit boring. And like I said, I want it to be a little larger than life. It needs to feel real, but still be, you know, memorable and exciting. So at that point, that's when all of your principles of animation are coming into play, and you're doing your exaggeration. You know, even in realistic animation, we want to do exaggerations, but they're going to be subtle exaggerations. And maybe that sounds like a weird phrase, like those words don't go together, but you're going to do the same process of exaggerating that you do with, you know, Ice Age or something at Blue Sky, where things are very stylized and beautiful, like everything's got beautiful arcs and things are really pushed, right? That same process is what we follow when we're doing something hopefully more realistic. It's just we're doing it in a more subtle way. We're pushing the pose just a little bit to make it a little more dynamic. We're changing the timing a little bit here to make it feel a little heavier, speeding up a little here to make it feel a little bit more powerful. Those types of things are what will come together to make the creature feel alive and organic and hopefully still feel real, but also, I don't know, like larger than life, I think is the best way I can put that. All right, I hope that answers your question. They're piling up. I'm gonna do a little speed round here. Let's see. How often would you recommend updating reels? I would say update your demo reel anytime that you feel that you've added something that improves the reel, like noticeably. You know, if your demo reel has changed in a noticeable way, and that could be that you put on something new, it could be that you took off something that you learned wasn't so great. Now, I wouldn't resubmit it if you just took off something that you found out wasn't so great, but I would do it when you add something new. I wouldn't do it like 2 weeks after you submitted it the first time, though. Like, if you can, give them a little bit of time. You run the if you spam them with your demo reel, you run the risk of the recruiter just ignoring you. So it's better. What you could do, in my experience, sorry, this is all over the place. In my experience, recruiters tend to be very, very nice people. And I think that if you have some way of being in contact with the recruiter, or maybe you got a reply from when you sent your demo reel, or even if you didn't, you could just include a note that says, hey, I know I just submitted this a couple weeks ago, but I just finished this new shot I'm excited about, and I wanted to send you an update. I think that that's fine, but I wouldn't do that like every month, or you run the risk, I think. You know, I've heard in the past, like, wait a few months before resubmitting, but I think it's fine if there's something that's new. Do you have any personal workflow to do quadruped animations? The workflow is pretty much the same. Well, that's not true. Huh. Yeah, I have a workflow that I don't recommend until you've been animating for a little while, because at first this was super hard for me to understand at all. But some of the guys at work were doing this, and I was like, I remember we were working on the Hulk, Ang Lee Hulk movie. When we were working on that, one of the guys that sits next to me, I look over at his monitor, and he's got the Hulk running around without legs. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I like to animate him without his legs first. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what? How do you know how far you can move him? Like, I couldn't understand it at all. But after playing with that idea, I actually think it's super powerful. And I do use that idea in action-heavy scenes. If a character is going to be running around a lot, I'll do my reference, I'll do my planning, and I do basically know what my poses are going to be. You know, like I do have a pretty good idea of where the feet are going to be, what the poses are, especially during his fight moves and whatever. But I will often now do a pass where I've hid the legs, and just this guy, like a legless dude, like floats around through the scene doing his thing, and I get that timing feeling the way that I want, and then I show the legs. Now they're like being left behind. And this is helpful for quadrupeds because they've got 4 legs, which can be a bear. So if you are already familiar with how to animate a quadruped, you already know the gait, like the timing of the footsteps of the creature that you're working with. You know, a lion's going to walk differently from a dog. Like if you've already learned all of that and you know how to animate it already and you've got your reference, you know what you're going to do, then I think it's okay to hide those legs, animate the cat's body like stalking through the grass, and then maybe it does a little like maybe do kind of this in the body, and it leaps and jumps and takes off running. Then you can kind of like show the legs, they're all pointed backwards. You put them in that first pose that you've already planned out, you've drawn your thumbnail, you know what it's going to be. And then you move forward a couple frames, and when a foot starts to like, you know, it's going to start doing this, and when it runs out of space and starts to hyperextend, you know, oh, it's time to take a footstep. And you can kind of do it that way. It's another way of working. That's a little bit more of a layered approach rather than a pose-to-pose approach. But I do find it helpful for big action scenes and for quadrupeds that are running around a lot. If it's just like taking a few steps or something, I think I would do a more pose-to-pose style. Yeah, so I think that's my answer for personal workflow. Otherwise, it's the same basic thing. Is rendering important? I mean, realistic textures and lighting, not at all. For demo reel, I don't think it's important at all. That said, if you're good at lighting and textures, it doesn't hurt. Like if you have some nice looking renders, it probably gives the demo reel a little bit more of a polished feel, and maybe that has some kind of subconscious effect at some studios that might make it feel like you're more in the know or something, but I don't think that would be that common. And for us, we are strictly looking for your acting performances and your body mechanics. That's it. And all other things like storytelling, how you're using the camera, and if we're getting some sense of your personality, maybe. But it's not at all like, well, we're gonna hire him because he rendered, you know, the shirt looks like it has a knit fabric on it. That's not gonna happen. What are some other good exercises to start with creature animation besides walk cycles? Besides quadruped walk cycles? I think anything ending in ing is probably good, other than sitting. Running, kicking, fighting, dying, climbing, falling, hitting, throwing, roaring. I don't know. Like anything like that is probably good. Get them moving around. A lot of demo reels have a lot of humans sitting in diners doing pretty cool performances. Oh, well, hey, and drinking their water, and that's great, and that tells me some stuff. It tells me that you can do some acting, and that I can see what kind of acting choices that you made, but I need to also know that you can make that character stand up and walk over to the coffee machine and get more coffee and walk back and sit down. And that's, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it's as important as having that good performance. So just getting them up, running around, doing stuff, I think is good. Brandon asks, do you always watch demo reels that get sent in all the way through, or do you sometimes get bored and find it's not very good and turn them off 20 seconds in? In which case, would you still put your best shot at the end? I have like a silent agreement with the demo reel submitter, which is that if the demo reel is less than a couple minutes, I'm going to watch the whole thing. Even if it's 3 minutes, I would probably watch the whole thing. If it's more than that, and I already don't think it's like ready for ILM, I'm probably not going to watch the whole thing. So when I say to put your best thing at the end, that only works if you're also following the other guidelines of something almost just as good was at the beginning, so I'm already hooked, and the demo reel is only going to be a couple minutes long or shorter. So if you're following those guidelines, then yeah, I'm going to watch the whole thing. And I think that most people probably would. There are other things that would make people turn a demo reel off. Something I should mention now in case I forget later, is you really need to keep in mind what the purpose of a demo reel is and who your audience is. And the answer to that is you don't know who the audience is. You know the purpose. The purpose is to get a job. But you have no idea who is going to review it. And it could be anyone from like your fun, filthy-mouthed uncle to a priest, literally. And it could be anything in between those. So you really need to give careful thought to what you are putting on your demo reel. I would avoid any, like, I don't want you to censor yourselves. I hate the idea of censorship, especially with art. But if the purpose of this is to get a job, I would avoid any, like, you know, racial jokes, sexually charged shots, I don't know, anything kind of crude or making fun of any cultures. I have seen demo reels get turned off twice. One, it just had like a ton of swearing, and the person that reviewing it used to be a pastor at a church. He turned it off. I saw him throw it in a garbage can. That's when I was pretty new at animating, and that really stuck with me. Like, whoa, okay. And the other thing that'll get turned off is if you're stealing. You know, never put anything on a demo reel that you didn't animate. Okay. Fernando, I feel like I answered your question about what kind of animations you should have. I think ing is probably good as long as you got some acting stuff as well. All right, let's jump into another demo reel. Holy moly, we're running out of time. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I want to share screen. We are going to look at Chad's demo reel. I'm going to play it once all the way through. Chad, thank you for submitting this. All right, this is another one that I'll just say off the top. This is a little bit longer. It's 2 minutes. It's 1:59 actually. So just under the limit. Nicely done. It's a great demo reel that also has a good variety of stuff. All right, pretty darn awesome. All right, Chad, I'm not totally sure if you're here, but I hope that you are. I'm gonna give you just a couple like quick notes about your shot. For the demo reel in general, I think it's terrific. It's definitely one of the better reels I've seen lately. I love the variety of styles, and this has, again, like, it's another pretty wide variety you've got here. You've got creature work, you've got video game stuff that feels stylized but a little more on the real side. Some of them feel pretty darn real, like this Boxster stuff is in the more like realistic style, I think. And then you've got some pretty stylized stuff, like with the little sparking guy at the beginning. So lots of fun stuff. This is also kind of in the, not kind of, it's much more in the realistic style. I dig it. And then your little dude with the sword, so fun. Okay, a couple quick things. All right, this is one. I'll just throw out there. You're probably not working on these anymore, but just something to keep in mind moving forward is there's a couple places in your demo reel where I feel like momentum is a little bit of a struggle, where I feel like the energy doesn't have the appropriate amount of time to dissipate or go away at a natural rate. Like you need to, like a big heavy truck going fast is going to take a lot longer to slow down and change directions than a small car, right? So the weight of something is going to have a direct relationship with the timing and the spacing, how far it's moving per frame. And keeping that momentum feeling consistent throughout a shot is an important part of what we do. So if you watch this guy, who I love, if you watch, he grabs this stalactite here, and he's got a certain amount of momentum on his butt as he's swinging through, right? But what happens right now is you get to this position. If you just look at his arm and think of it like a clock, he kind of gets to this position here, like 1 o'clock, and then it kind of stays there for a little while. All through here, it's still 1 o'clock, and it kind of goes to noon over the course of like 5 frames. But then it goes to 11 o'clock, boom, and then the next frame. Oh, and actually, okay, so there's a couple moments this happens. You hit 1 to 12. It stops for a while, and then it goes to 11, and then it stays at 11 for a few frames, and then boom, it goes to like, I don't know, almost 3, and it goes to 3 in 2 frames. So what that means is that it no longer feels like the momentum of his body swinging through is what's helping propel him along. And this is more stylized, so you can get away with it a lot more. But I want you to watch out for that, because that same idea bites you on this shot, where this guy comes flying out of the building. Cool shot. Like overall, it is a cool shot. I don't want to say it's like not good. It's great. But this is something about it that you could improve. See how he's twisted here? He's got his left arm forward wrapped around, and then he's going to spin around. He's going to spin clockwise to here, which I think is rad. I really like that idea. But the problem is that he's got a lot of momentum through here on that right arm coming around. The screen left arm, his right arm, boom, coming around. It has a lot of speed and momentum. And if you're saying that he's a big, heavy guy with big, heavy arms, he can't just stop like he does here. That rotation completely hits a wall. Boom, 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 and then he's stuck there as he comes down for a landing. So if you know that his landing needs to be this pose, then I think you could keep that same idea. Just start him out twisted away from us even more. Like maybe we see his back right here. And so you have more frames of him coming around in a more consistent way, where that momentum dissipates naturally. Like there's weight to him to like carry it through. And I have one final note for you. I love all this stuff. This is awesome. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is this final shot. I think the roar is really cool, but something else to watch out for as your demo reel is getting up to this higher level. It's that attention to detail stuff starts to stick out. So eye line is something that I would encourage you to go in and maybe check the eye lines here. Like here, it feels like he's looking somewhere above my head. Here, well, I would say here it feels like he's looking over to my right somewhere. About here, it looks like he's looking right at me. But this feels like kind of the only time I feel like he's really looking right at me. So I don't know, just go in, and I would encourage you to like make it so that he looks at the camera and then he stays on that camera and attacks. And I think it'll feel more ferocious. All right, that's what I got for yours. And I know that there's more questions, but let me just quickly dive into this last one just to make sure we've got time for it. Sealard. Gotta learn how to say that. I'll play this through. It's a shorter one. but it's great. And here's something else that I will say, that when you're thinking about the length of your demo reel, 30 seconds of awesome animation is way better than that same 30 seconds of animation with another minute and a half of like okay animation. So you get like a 2-minute reel. The 30 seconds of awesome animation is way better because a demo reel is only as good as the worst thing on it. Because when I see a shot on the reel that isn't as good as everything else, it tells me a couple things. First, it tells me that you're not quite there yet with being able to see the problems in your own work, which everybody in the world struggles with. All of us do. And second, though, it tells me that you thought that that shot was good enough to show us, you know? So it makes it kind of brings the whole demo reel down a little bit. So I think a good rule of thumb is like, it's only as good as the worst thing on it. So a short reel, there's nothing wrong with a short reel. And a lot of you don't have a ton of material yet. So if you got 20 seconds of good animation, that's fine. Send it out. It doesn't need to be a minute or whatever. So Sealard has some extra skills. He can do some rough compositing. I know that he's like, I forget, I think that he was doing some cool lighting stuff. I really like all of it. The whole reel is great. And this final shot coming up is really neat. It's a great idea and really well done. The interaction between them feels really good to me. So this is a good example of a reel feeling kind of next level when you're doing something like this and submitting it to a place like Weta or ILM or wherever. This is going to catch their eye big time because this really shows like, oh, I mean, basically he's doing what we do. So he's ready. Now what this reel doesn't have is the variety though. That's currently the trade-off. I bet Sealard probably has other shots that he could add variety, you know, but a bit of variety of style would be good for this demo reel. I think it would open up more opportunities. But honestly, if you had to pick one style or the other for which has the most opportunities, I would say this. More studios will be interested in this than a reel that doesn't have anything realistic or creature or animal on it. But, you know, variety is what you want. So just quickly want to point out a couple things. He did a really great job at, you know, he went and shot this stuff of himself with this gun. And I'm curious how you shot this. I'm not totally sure if you're here, but I should email you or something. I want to know, like, if somebody grabbed this gun or if you were faking it. I feel like it looks pretty darn good. Either way, you did a great job at making it feel like the cat is motivating these movements. With, like, you've got this great shift in the body and the head starts to go screen left here to start to pull and twist that gun. And it does really feel like the cat is the one making the gun move around, which that's great. You've got a nice sequential breaking of joints, kind of a flow of action through this cat as it gets grabbed, where the tail goes and then the butt goes and then the spine and head get pulled along that and slammed down. I did have one like super small thing. It's so small. It caught my eye just a little bit as the cat exits. This is so picky, okay? When you let the cat go here, I feel like if I imagine where his butt is, it's like right above here. And imagine where his butt is now, it's pretty much like a whole cat length forward. Or it feels like that. Like he's got some momentum. He's being thrown. And the tail is here. If we go forward one more frame, the tail has rotated up, but I don't feel like it's gotten a whole lot shorter. So it kind of feels like the cat stopped flying. Like it goes forward a frame and then rotates or barely moves forward or something. I feel like here you probably just want to see like a little bit of the tip of the tail right here. And actually I would do it down here so that it's exiting through this line where the tail is. And visually that'll be clearer that if it gets pulled out of frame along the line of that tail. The other thing is that without context, I think that this is really fun and the animation's nice. The slipping on the ground though, I don't know if there's something you can do to explain this more. Maybe it's like loose gravel or something, and if that's the case, it'd be a giant pain, but you could put some gravel or some rocks falling or something. Out of context, it is visually kind of confusing. It feels like the world is maybe tipping, like a sinking ship. Yeah. Oops. Okay. All right. Awesome demo reel. Thanks for sharing it. Wow, there's a whole bunch of questions. Okay. Holy moly. All right. I'm going to speed around a few of these. How important is it to have a camera move in a shot? It's not important really for the demo reel, but it might be important to make the shot look cool. It might be important for the storytelling or for setting a mood. You know, there's the whole psychology of composition of where you place the camera is going to tell the audience a lot about who that character is and how powerful they are at that moment in that scene and how they're feeling. So the camera placement will potentially have a big effect on how your shot feels. But I don't think having like a big camera move is necessarily all that important. What's important for us is that if you do have a big camera move, is that it feels like a real camera move that could be done with existing equipment for a movie. You know, it could be like a drone maybe now that there's drones, but generally it should feel like it's on a boom or a dolly or a crane or something that's moving in a way that we're familiar with. If it's just flying all around some kind of action, it starts to feel like a video game, and that usually doesn't go over great. How can we push the reel to the next level as a junior? Because when you're a junior, you don't have super cool shots to show. That's a really good question. I would say just put your very best stuff on your demo reel and start showing it around and continue working on your stuff. Oh, hold on one second. Oh, I'm allowed to stay after. I got a message that says I don't have to end right at 5. So how about let's go to like 5:15. If you guys need to take off, that's fine. Thanks for coming. And again, those of you who shared reels, I totally appreciate it. And everybody who sent a reel. I think we got 10 of them, and I kind of picked 3 for specific reasons, but all of them were really cool. And thank you to everybody for your courage to show your reel. It's like taking off your clothes in front of everybody, and I know it's scary. All right, so for your reel as a junior, the reality is that almost nobody graduating animation school is going to have like a super amazing demo reel. But as far as like big complex things happening, but they could have a super amazing demo reel as far as animation quality, you know? And what that is going to boil down to is your attention to detail, your use of planning and reference, how you exaggerated that reference, what your timing and spacing is like. And the reality is that if you keep your ideas simple, then you could finish those shots and make them look really great. So something that Bobby taught me like forever ago was KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's a good rule of thumb when you're choosing your animation assignments in school. And it's really tempting to say, for this assignment, I'm going to have 12 ninjas jump off a rooftop and fight a lion. And yeah, okay, that could be super cool, but you're not going to finish it. and so what's the point? So it'd be much better to have like one ninja and no lion. And he jumps off and rolls and like sneaks along a wall and runs off screen. If you do that really great, that's great. And that would be like awesome on a demo reel. And arguably just as awesome as the 12 ninjas fighting a lion, unless the 12 ninjas fighting a lion was really spectacularly done, then that would be really impressive because the complexity involved would knock us out. We'd be like, oh my God, like that must have been, that took like 6 months to do that. So as far as like pushing your reel to the next level, I think you should focus on simplicity of idea, simple ideas, strong acting performances, nice quality of motion, like good body mechanics, where you're really thinking about the weight shifts, the poses, communicative poses that tell a story, that tell us the emotional state of that character, how they're feeling. Like that stuff is way more important than a beautifully rendered shot or a big, super complex shot of other things. Like you'll get to that stuff later. Animation is, I like to say that it's a long road that we're all on. You're learning animation, I'm learning animation. We're all at different places along that road. And some of us are moving at different speeds along that road. I've never been the sprinter on that road. I'm not the guy that learns the stuff super fast. I feel like I have to work extra hard at it compared to other people I've known that I feel like they're just born knowing how to animate. But we're all on that path, going our own speed, working our way down that road. And you don't start that road with the kick-ass demo reel. That's not how it works. You start that road with a bouncing ball. And eventually, you're doing 12 ninjas fighting a lion. But you got to go down the road first to that, and you shouldn't feel pressure to be doing the ninjas and the lion before you're ready to do that. So you just do what you can, make the best reel you can, and that doesn't mean that you're done with your demo reel. That means that you've done this demo reel and you sent it out, and maybe take like a day off to chill and like watch Game of Thrones and play Marvel Puzzle Quest or whatever it is you want to do, and then like get to work again on a new demo reel shot, and then build up your reel even more and send it out again. I think that's my advice for that. Howdy. So many famous short films have a very strong and impressive story, which could be funny or touchy, sometimes have a sense of tragedy. How can you find the most teasing story or idea to build a really funny piece of animation? Is there any link that you suggest or can you share with us that could inspire us? Honestly, if you're looking to find like a piece of dialogue to animate to, I think the most important thing is that it's something that inspires you, that you connect with, like that you feel like you're going to want to listen to that 500 times over the next 2 months. That's one thing. You should feel inspired by it. You should get an idea. Like you hear it and you're like, oh, I can make that into this. It's usually not the best idea to recreate what existed to that dialogue before. It'll be better if you put that same performance or that same vocal performance into a whole different scenario. Like that's always the most interesting. If you're looking for like a nice quality of vocals, then documentaries are actually really good because people are, like me just now, are pausing to think and stuttering or changing their words or starting to say something and then they say something else. And you get this nice breakup, a contrast in the delivery of the words, and it might feel more real, So I'm not totally sure if that helped. Anonymous asks, how important is rendering your demo reel versus just play blasting? Oh, kind of answered that. I don't think it's important at all. Play blast away. For animation specifically, at a bigger studio. I should qualify that. At any medium to large studio, be it games or movies, usually is going to be hiring you just to animate. They don't care if you know how to render something. They're never going to want or let you render anything. They want to hire like the best lighter possible and pair that person up with the best animator possible, with the best modeler possible, with the best rigger possible, and make the best thing possible with these experts. Now, the smallest studios can't afford to hire 4 of these people. Maybe they can only afford to hire 2 people. So in that case, having some rendered stuff on your reel could be a big plus. Like maybe you could animate and render, or maybe you could rig and model and animate, or like the smaller the studio, the more hats they might want you to wear and the more skills you want to display on your reel. In general, I would avoid putting anything on your reel that you don't want to do professionally. Now, at first, you probably want to just get your foot in the door somewhere, like doing anything. But generally, moving forward in your career, if you did a cool tornado at home in your, tornado simulation software, but you don't want to do that every day professionally, I wouldn't put it on your demo reel because you could get pigeonholed into being tornado guy. But again, like if the priority is like getting a job somewhere, then put it on the reel for sure. I just turned 30 and I started animation about 6 months ago. I fell in love and I'd love to pursue it. Is it too late to start now? Is age a factor? No, age is not a factor. At least in the US, it's illegal to even like ask someone how old they are. It's not a factor at all. It could be a factor in the sense of like the hours can be harder if you're older with, I don't know, if you've got a family, if you've got kids, or you're going to school somewhere at the same time, or like there's maybe you're taking care of your parents. Like there's things other responsibilities that come in that might make it harder to keep up with all of the different hours and demands. Like sometimes we work pretty long hours, and balancing that with family can be hard. That's just one of the challenges of it. That's kind of just the reality. I don't think 30 is Like, you're just 30, man. That's not that old. Come on. I started with someone, let's see, my first day at work, the guy who started at the same day as me and sat next to me, he was 45 and he had just started animating. He had quit his like t-shirt printing business to follow this dream, which was awesome. But no, I've met students that are in their 60s. It's never too old to do this. It's art. How important is personality of the characters and imposing your own personality in a reel? Different studios will have different priorities of what they want to see in a reel. At ILM, we care a lot about the acting, but the body mechanics are probably a little bit more important for us. At Pixar, they're going to care a lot about the body mechanics, but the acting is probably a little bit more important for them. So you're going to want to tailor your demo reel to wherever you're applying and to whatever the job is. I wouldn't submit like an animation reel for a rigging job or a rigging reel for an animation job. Like those are two different reels. And like a modeling reel, like you don't want to have any animation on a modeling reel. It's going to be turntables that show shaded and then wireframe and maybe some like clay sculptures if you've done those. And similarly, I wouldn't show modeling on an animation reel unless it's you're going for a smaller studio. Medium to big, I wouldn't mix those up. So studios might have different needs for what they're looking for, but I would say that all of them are interested in getting a little bit of a sense of who you are. Sometimes that boils down to just sort of looking for warning signs of, does this seem like someone that I'm going to want to be around more than I'm around my family or not? You know, because that's the sad, harsh reality of it. And then personality of the characters, I think it's super important that your characters have a sense of personality and that acting is shining through, that the emotions feel like there's truth behind those emotions and there's subtext of what they're meaning, you know, like what they're feeling. What are they, like instead of what the words are, am I seeing what the character actually means and what the character is actually thinking about, you know? The stuff that's more in like class 5 and 6 of the main character program, like that kind of stuff is so essential for what we're looking for in a reel. Chelsea, would you recommend blasting out your reel? Oh, blasting out your reel. That's like, I don't know what that means. If someone blasted out of a reel, I think I'd run and call the police. Would you recommend blasting out of your, I did it again. Would you recommend blasting out your reel to companies cold or seeking out openings to apply for? I would seek out openings and then I would send it cold to studios that I'm particularly interested in. You know, if your dream is to work at whatever, Blue Sky, I'm really picking on Blue Sky for some reason today. But if Blue Sky's your dream, I would send them your reel whether or not they're hiring. Because you never know. And the reality is that if they really love it, it could get put on a list of like people to keep track of for when they are hiring. So I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And I would definitely go to the studios cold at like something like CTN. We're at CTN. Go around to all the studio booths with your reel. Maybe make time to show your reel to animators and get feedback. And to a certain degree, showing it for feedback at those booths is like an easy, non-threatening way to like half apply for a job, kind of, you know? So I think that that's a good idea too. Elise, do you recommend having one shot character animation, then the next shot creature animation, then the next character as a way of ordering the shots on a reel? Yeah, I prefer them being mixed up a little bit, and that's part of why I chose 2 of the reels that I did. Alex and Chad both had a great variety, and part of the reason that it feels like a great variety is that variety is all mixed up. And something here is real, and then it's like cartoony, and then it's a dragon, and then it's like a little sparking dude. So I think having a mix up gives more of a sense of that variety. And it also makes it kind of more fun, you know? I would say that for, generally speaking, I would recommend erring on the side of putting a creature or animal shot first, though. You know, if it's hopefully one of your better shots, I would put it up at the front of the reel. And the reason is that there are studios that will mostly only be interested in that kind of work. And if the first 3 things on the reel are really cartoony, they might turn it off and move on. So it wouldn't be a bad idea. Like start out with a dragon flying in or whatever, something like that. And then you could have like a few cartoony things and then another creature thing. That'll like keep them engaged. But that way they'll keep watching the reel. Steven asks, in the big studios, I've always been told a full-time job is rare. Everyone is on contract at the end of the show. Your job is always up in the air. For someone who's been at ILM for a while, can you speak to that? Yeah, unfortunately, that is the reality of the industry these days, is project hires, where you're hired on to work on a specific project. And when you're hired, you are given an end date. Now, the end date often might change as things push, or they get more work than they thought they were going to get, or maybe they really love your work and decide to keep you on longer, like to the very end of that project or something. The other reality, though, is that if you come on as a project hire and you are awesome, there's a chance that they will keep you on for the next project. And it often happens at work that someone is a project hire and they're there for like years and years and years as a project hire, just moving from one project to the next. After a few years, usually, if there's like a bunch of those in a row, they'll usually make that person a full-time staff animator. But like you said, that is more rare. It is. It's less rare in feature animation. The Disneys and Pixars, it's a little bit less rare in those circumstances. That's still more a contract job. When I started at ILM, it was a contract. Back in those days, it was, you have a 3-year contract, and that's, well, you know, hopefully they can still let you go. It's not the reality. Here's the reality. The project hire idea is crappy. I don't like that that's the way that things are. I wish that that isn't how things were, and it kind of creates this nomadic lifestyle where you work on a project in California, and then you got hired to work in New Zealand on Avatar, and then you get hired to, you move around. Which, as someone with a family, I'd hate that idea, and it's a bummer. Wait, why did I start talking about that? That means that I've been talking too long. Wait. Right. The reality, though, is that even if you're on a contract somewhere, like when I was on a 3-year contract, they could still fire me whenever they wanted. Like, it didn't. All that it meant was that for 3 years, I was promising not to try to get a job somewhere else. They could still let me go. They could say that I wasn't doing well enough, or there wasn't enough work, or whatever. So, like, as a staff, I'm a staff animator. That doesn't guarantee me a spot on the next project. So, it doesn't really, I don't know that it is all that different from being a project hire. Maria, has there been a memorable shot from a demo reel that you particularly remember fondly, where you had to review demo reels of applicants at work? Yes, it's the reels where I was their mentor. And I got to show off their reel in front of other supervisors and not say anything and watch them be like, whoa, that was cool, because I knew that it was cool. Those are fond memories for me. And a couple of them are staff hires right now, actually, come to mention it. They went through the Animals and Creatures course, kicked butt, got a great reel, knocked some socks off at work, and there they are. Mostly the things that are more memorable are the shots where people made bad choices for content. It's hard to forget, like, a particularly racist shot, or like a really sexist joke or something, and you're like, oh my god, like, what were they thinking putting that on there? Like, that stuff is unfortunately more what sticks in my head. Okay, geez, there's still a lot of questions. Okay. I think I gotta end it. I'll do 2 more questions. 2 more. Be picky. Give me a second. I'm just reading through these. Elena, ciao. She's just asking, what kind of assignments you recommend doing in like the introduction to acting class? I would say that anything that just feels like true to you. The important thing is going to be to shoot your reference over and over and over again until you stop thinking about the words and the timing of the words, and instead you're just not even thinking about the emotions, you're feeling the emotions for real. I think that that's the important thing, and beyond that, I don't think it matters. Like, as long as the emotions feel real, that's what matters. I suppose I would recommend having some kind of emotional change. It's good to have some contrast. So a shot where someone is sad the whole shot isn't going to be as interesting as somebody who transitions from hopeful to sad, or sad to nervous, or whatever. Like, if there's a transition or a change in there, I think that is a little bit better. But ciao to Italy, to who is an animator that really specializes in quadruped animation. Oh, sorry, I read that out loud. I'm supposed to be reading these to myself. Joe wants to know who's the animator that you could say is really specialized in quadruped animation. Alvise is like super talented. I'm blanking on his last name. Why am I? What's Alvise's last name? Does anybody know Alvise's last name? He's the best. Yeah, Alvise Avati. I think he's the best at quadrupeds of people that I've personally like been around. He's like blows my mind. Because asking if I'm teaching creatures again. I think I am going to after this coming quarter. I'm going to teach the class 1 newbies. Haha, suckers. And then I think I'm going to go back to creatures again. Sarah asked about resume and cover letter and the importance of those. I do think that those are important. I read the cover letter. For me, that's my best chance at getting a little bit of a sense of who you are. The resume is important to send so that you're professional. Even if there's, like, your resume can be a lawn maintenance job when I was a teenager and Starbucks. And that's totally fine. It's important to include a resume, and maybe that'll show like where you went to school and stuff. But I do think that a resume is important. That said, we tend to not even look at the resume until after we've looked at the demo reel. So if the demo reel is great, then it's like, all right, let's learn more about this person. So really, I would say like 90% of it is your demo reel. Okay, we're gonna do one more question. Okay, this is a good one. Madison is asking, would you rather watch a fully animated 2 to 4 minute story, like a short film, or just varied actions and ideas like we've seen today on a reel? So some studios really want to see a short film specifically. Probably not a 2 to 4 minute one though. That's really long. Like a 30-second to a minute short would probably be a good idea for those studios. So like, I know Pixar really loves seeing a short film. That's a big thing for them. However, a lot of studios don't want to see a short film. We just want to see your best animation. If we hire you at ILM, it's not going to be to make a short film. Same at Pixar, but they're looking to see your storytelling skills by looking at your short film. We're hoping to get your storytelling skills from individual shots, but like I said, their storytelling is prioritized a little bit higher at Pixar than it is at ILM. Everybody's got their different needs, you know? So my advice would be to have 2 links. One that is your short film, your whole short film. Even if it's like 4 minutes, that's okay. Short film. And then another link that is your demo reel. And your demo reel is going to have your animation, including your best shots from the short film. Remember how I said that your demo reel is only as good as the worst thing on it? The problem with a short film, especially if it's like 4 minutes long, is that probably not every shot in the 4 minutes is going to be your best awesome work. So when you see the whole film, and I'm only looking mostly at the quality of animation, there's going to be shots in there that are going to drag you down. So it's better to have, here's a demo reel with also my best shots from my short film, and this is what I think is good enough to show you guys. And then at the end of the demo reel, you could have one of those little, you know, maybe a link down in your Vimeo description or on YouTube, the annoying boxes that pop up. They're like, click on this to see this. those can link to like your full short film. And if somebody's really into your demo reel, they'll probably watch the short film. But now I'm not going to be knocking you down for the shots that don't feel as done, because I already have seen what you told me are the shots that you think are the best. And now I'm just looking at it for story and assuming that the shots that aren't as good, you just didn't have enough time to like get them to be as good, which is the reality of making a short film. All right, I think we got to cut it off. I feel bad I kept you guys like way too long. Thanks for coming. This is like really interesting. I'd never done this before. This is fun. Thanks again to everybody who showed your reels. You guys are like super brave. Hats off to you. And yeah, maybe I'll see some of you guys in a creature class down the road. Either way, have fun animating. That's the most important thing. You got to be having fun. All right. And stay inspired. All right. Good luck. Bye, guys.